The Honourable Rosie Sahana.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to, carry on. I only had 2 minutes yesterday, so I'd just like to, I'll start from scratch again and use the time I have now to talk about the youth stuff. It's really hard for me to sit back as an Aboriginal person in the back and just listen to all the talk about the youth stuff. Not just in the Kimberley, but it's a statewide issue. I guess it's a national issue too, because last weekend a young 14-year-old boy, a group of kids robbed a car in Cairns, and the 14-year-old boy died in that crash. Just go back, I just want to follow my colleague over there, Honourable Neil Thompson, and his statement yesterday. Go back to the forums that were held in the Kimberley over the last month or so. I just want to make it, I can honestly stand here and say that, we can sit here or stand here and talk about all the youth issues and talk about and really highlight all the bad stuff. The youth issues, the crimes, that's just one boil, I'd say, one little component of the whole issue of youth dysfunction throughout the Kimberley. There are a lot of things. It stems right back to, family issues. So I can stand here and say straight out that this is the result of decades of failed social policies. Actually, many decades in which the Libs were in government. This kind of disintegration is a result of generations of government neglect. The escalation of juvenile crime has certainly grabbed the headlines of late, but in reality, this is not new, only a symptom of a number of problems faced by some Aboriginal families. And I really don't want to dwell on the forums that has happened, because I do have a report of all the forums that was held throughout the Kimberley and the stats on the people that attended it. What I really want to also talk about is not just about the forum, but recently too, on the 22nd and 23rd of January, in Broome, an Aboriginal organisation took the initiative and opportunity and leadership, I must say, to host a 2-day workshop that was funded by NIAA to talk about the youth issues. And how the Aboriginal organisations and government departments was also present there, can work together in collaboration and really address the youth issues together without, one organisation doing it or one department doing it, but everybody, because the youth issue is the big thing. So at the end of, I'm just going to give you a summary at the end of the 2-day workshop, because I really don't want to spend too much time just talking about the youth issues. Right now, it's really, unless we do something constructively together and we all talk together about the youth issues, I'm sure something will come out of it. But as an Aboriginal person, try and live with the youth issues. I live in a house I've been living in now for the last 36 years. I live in the area in Broome called the Bronx, and it's like you could call it the ghettos in New York if you like. Well, I live right in the center of it. My next door neighbor, at any given time during the day, her house is full of youth between the age of 8 to 14. And I've lived in my house 36 years, and in the last 6 months, I had to get my son to come and stay with me, because that's how scared. In the 36 years of my life living in that house, I've been frightened of the youth of Broome, and that's the first time for me. And I've lived, born and bred in that town, but it is scary shit. And how to deal with this girl next door, it's a young girl that I knew her whole life. So I sat down with my family and thought, well, I actually don't want to get this girl in trouble. I don't want her to lose her house either, because that means her family's out in the street. She'll have no accommodation, so that's another issue. So what I did was, I got my daughter to talk to her, or because they're the same age, to see, hey, how can we help this young girl? And then I spoke to Homes West about it, because once a month I'd go in my front of my yard, in my carport, and I'd be picking up needles, used needles. So I'm not a druggie. I don't take drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I have no tolerance for either. But someone my age who's born and bred in Broome, we have to put up with this every day. We live it, so we see it. We try to do what we can, but nothing happens. It goes back again to the family. So from an Aboriginal point of view, let's really look at not just the negative stuff, but let's put together what we can do to help these families that are really struggling. You know, we need to adopt a true focus on families. Some kids don't live in a nuclear family, like some Aboriginal kids do have. We're lucky. My family is lucky. Some other families like me are lucky. They have a roof over their head. They work, they earn their own money, so, you know, but still it doesn't mean that you don't care for the kid next door. Some kids have the best care in the world, whereas some kids don't even have a proper home at all. The lady next door, these kids run away from home because there's too many things happening at home. They feel safe, and there's one house where there's about 10 to 20 kids there at any given time. Friday, Saturday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday is the worst nights. They start from 11 to 5 in the morning. While we're getting up, they're going back to sleep because they've had their night of fun. But where do we start? Honestly, I don't know, because we sit and we talk about the youth stuff happening in the Broome area, just in the Broome area, and we look at those kids there. This generation of kids are going to slip by. There's only two options for them. It's either they're the next generation of kids that are going to fill the prisons, or they're the next generation of kids that are going to suicide. There's two options for them, nothing else. So let's give them some hope of, hey, getting them out of where they are, and look at, you know, putting some positive people, mentors, what do they call them? Role models for that matter. You know, we need to work on kids that don't have anything. Not dwell on the kids that go to school, because some of the programs at the schools mainly, you know, I mean, we had a big disagreement about the role the Clontarf Football Academy have. That's more about kids keeping in school. They deal with kids that go to school, not kids that are not going to school. There's an organisation in Broome that works with kids that pick them up from the shops that should be at school, but not at school. Parents don't know that. They walk past my place every morning. They got the uniform on, but they don't go to the school. They go to the shop down the road. But what's happening? So, you know, I'd like to quote, I met Harry Blake. He's the professor at the University of WA Criminologist, and I met him 20 years ago. And I just want to quote him because what he says here is still the same thing that is happening today. The reason the youth justice diversion programs have not worked for Indigenous youth is that our system is still culturally white. And you may believe it or not, but I still believe that because I worked in a field back in the 80s with youth. I spent the last 10 years working with youth. But you cannot deal with youth issues on its own without dealing with the family issues. It goes back to the function of the families. Let's look at what we can do for the families. There's a greater need, you know. I mean, honestly, we had a 2-day workshop with this Aboriginal organisation, which I've got the report here. I thought I'd bring it and share it with you guys, but just give you some of what happened. What came out of that? That was the first time a forum was held where all the Aboriginal organisations got together and decided to talk to each other, because nobody talked to each other before. Everybody get their own funding differently, separately, whether it's state, whether it's Commonwealth funding. Nobody spoke together. It took one Aboriginal organisation to coordinate it and get everybody together, including government departments. Day one was a bit slow, but day two it finished off. Really, really good positive stuff come out of it. So what the Aboriginal organisations decided is that they need to talk to each other more. They made that decision to come together, set up a committee that will move forward in addressing the youth issues, and work in collaboration with the government departments, because you cannot work together with the thing, without everybody working together. Anyways, I know Neil, Honourable Thompson is in my area too, and I acknowledge that, so I'll pay, you know, give him respect for that. But it's not about who can do what government can do better for the organisation, it's what we can do better together right now. And there was another subject I wanted to talk to about, but I know I won't have time. So before I finish, I would like to, I would like to invite my colleague Carl McGlynn, who will be raising a very important issue for me because I haven't got time to do it. It's about Aboriginal employment for impact. So, sorry, that's all I have to say about the youth. And I'm really passionate about youth. I'd like to see some really good outcomes. So thank you.